Well,
Right,
we
well-
just slammed the gun. All right, I guess we're gonna call this budget meeting to order. All right, do flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, now we need to have the election of a presiding officer. I don't know what the rules are. Anybody is eligible for that, I believe. Is that right, Jan?
Yep, and we just have to have a nomination.
So you need nominations.
I nominate Janae.
I second.
Look at that. As many times as I've been done to you. Are you willing to accept the nomination?
No, I'm sorry.
You're not. Well. Janae, you accept the nomination? Any more noms?
Oh, damn. I nominate Teresa.
I nominate Dan.
I get to be in it.
Well, we got a nomination, we need a second.
Well, I nominated.
Yes, you second.
Yes.
Yes, nominated, Dan's nominated, and, Chad nominated him, Teresa seconded it. Is there any more nominations? Seeing no more nominations, we shall vote. All those in favor of Dan being the chairman of the budget committee, the presiding officer, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Dan wins.
Perfect. It's where I take over, right here.
Well, yes, Robert's gonna do a budget,
Yeah,
direct here in just a second, I'm sure.
Okay. Thank you everyone for attending our 2026 budget committee meeting this Monday, April 27th. And we're now going to hear from Superintendent Robert Freeman on the budget message.
All right, thank you, presiding officer. I really appreciate your effort to avoid that, but just the way things work. So thank you for assuming that role. I also want to thank all of you for making time to participate in this process. I'm sure you have better things to do on a Monday night, but this is really an important process in the school district, and your participation means a lot to us. So thank you for your time. Dear members of the Glide School District Budget Committee and the greater Glide community, as we prepare for another exciting academic year, I'm pleased to present the 26-27 budget for the Glide School District. This document reflects months of thoughtful planning and collaboration grounded in our shared commitment to the continued success and growth of our students. I'm proud to report that we have developed a balanced budget, and when I say we, it's the royal we, because really it was Carolyn, for the record. Balanced budget that supports every aspect of our educational mission. With a general fund just under $14 million and a total operating budget of a little over $22 million, the district is well positioned to meet the diverse needs of our students and community. This year's budget is strategically aligned to the Glide School Board's key focus areas: parent and family engagement and communication. We value the critical role families play in each student's educational journey. This budget includes targeted investments to strengthen communication and expand meaningful opportunities for family engagement. By enhancing these partnerships, we aim to foster a collective environment where all stakeholders are empowered to support student success. Student engagement. Our mission centers on creating an enriching and inspiring educational experience. We are investing in programs and initiatives that promote active student participation and personalized learning, including extracurricular opportunities and innovative instructional practices. These efforts are designed to spark curiosity, foster the love of learning, and support every student in reaching their full potential. District culture. A strong, inclusive, and positive culture is the foundation of a successful school district. This year, we are dedicating resources to initiatives that celebrate diversity, promote equity, and foster a sense of belonging for all. A thriving district culture uplifts students and staff and supports long-term excellence. In addition to these priorities, we remain committed to fiscal responsibility and sustainability. Our budgeting process carefully balances short-term needs with long-term goals, ensuring transparency, accountability, and continued financial health of the district. As we look ahead, I thank every member of the Glide community for your ongoing support and dedication to our schools. Together, we will continue building a bright future for our students, one that reflects the values, resilience, and spirit of the Glide community.
Okay, thank you, Robert, for the budget message. Okay, now we're going to move into the general budget information, and Superintendent Freeman is also going to go over that with Fiscal Services Director Carolyn Standish.
Yep, like I stated earlier, this document has Carolyn's print on it, and so she's going to take over at this point and go through some slides with you and kind of explain at a 30,000 foot level the district's proposed budget.
Okay, so I just want to thank you all. Just to reiterate what Robert and Dan said, I appreciate you guys giving up your time to our school district to be here to learn about our 26-27 proposed budget. So first, we just want to talk about our budget assumptions. So we are in year 2 of the state school governor's recommended budget of $11.36 billion, which means so last year that would have been 49% of that amount that's dispersed amongst the schools based on a lot of different things like effective enrollment. And then year 2, they take 51% of that. So we're in year 2 of this budget. We're thankful that this has stayed at $11.36 billion because there was a stall during this year that we thought they were going to have to reduce that. So it's wonderful that they did not take away from that. It's based on a projected enrollment of about 720 students, estimated property taxes of about 4.97 million. And again, these are all approximations because I think, as you guys know, in this world, it's all approximating just based on previous years and current data where we come up with these numbers. And then on the expenditure side, about 79% of our general fund goes to payroll and associated payroll costs. And then also this year, if you remember last year, one of the transfers we did, we started a PERS reserve fund. And what that's for is that when we got our PERS bond years ago, it made a side account in our PERS. And so that money that's been used in there is offsetting how much we have to pay to PERS. It's like a 5.35% credit this year. And so just from data that we've received, that PERS bond has saved us a lot of money, like over $2 million over its life. But it's not going to last as long as they projected that it would. And ours is projected to disappear sometime in the 26-27 years. So we started it with the 100,000 transfer last year. And this year Robert and I decided that I would set up a payroll deduction to take a certain percentage of payroll to go into that reserve fund so that when our side account disappears, we will have money available to pay the additional costs. And then
Can I clarify that?
Yes.
That's not coming out of our staff. That's in addition to, is based on our payroll. So we're not reducing the pay of our staff.
No, it's just another payroll deduction. And then, of course, as we all know, our overall operating costs increase every year. So here's our projected revenue, just under 14 million. It's up about 850 from last year's budget, and that's of course, partly due, you can see, to our big pots of money, our state school fund, our property taxes, and then a healthy beginning fund balance. And then, you know, we have other sources like our federal forest fees have been reinstated. And I know Janet had asked about that. I have last year, for this current year, I budgeted for the federal forest fees because we weren't sure. So, but we are going to get a portion of money for last year that we didn't get. So that will be money that we didn't expect. That will be nice. That'll help with the beginning of that balance. So yeah, and if you guys want further information on where all of these other sources are, it's in your budget book on page 13. Welcome, Dan.
Hey, sorry, I'm late.
And then for our general fund expenditures, as I already touched on, about 10.9 million will be for salaries and benefits, which accounts for about 79% of our overall expenditures, leaving about 21% for all of our other costs. The next large one is purchase services, which would be things like legal, audit fees, utilities, sub costs, travel, just to name a few of those costs.
Is that where fuel goes under purchase services too, or is that not?
Fuel is actually under supplies and materials.
Oh, yeah.
It's in the 04 object category. So next up is our supplies and materials, which is like computer software, our consumable and non-consumable supplies for our schools, gas and diesel, custodial costs, you know, our supplies for that, liability insurance, that all falls under that. And then other objects would be like dues and fees, our liability insurance, and then some money that we set aside for capital outlay, which would be like any building or grounds improvements that we made. And then a big one that I'm really happy about is our interfund transfers. We're being able to set aside $255,000, which is up from the past previous years. And our next slide is going to talk about that. And then we always leave an ending fund balance between 500 and 600 that's unappropriated, which means we don't touch that money. It's left in there for reserve for the next year. So now for our interfund transfers, they're going to be doing 75,000 into our capital improvement fund, our bus replacement fund, which this budget does include the purchase of a new bus, and we're putting 75,000 in the bus replacement fund, as well as in our textbook adoption fund, and then we put 30,000 into our equipment replacement fund. So like 23, 24, we were not able to do any transfers. 24, 25, we did 100,000 to food service only. And then 25, 26, we were able to do 190,000. So this year I'm happy that we're up in the 255, 250,000. And then next, this is just captures our special revenue, projects and debt service funds. These of course are already have strict guidelines for how we can spend this money, but just so you guys can see, like let's see our integrated guidance grants, which are right kind of towards the middle, SIA and high school success is over $1 million, and we've done restaffing for that. And then our early literacy grant is also a part of that. We're going out for some summer learning grant. We asked for 150,000. We don't know yet if we're going to get that, but we need to budget for it just in case. And I'm thinking we probably will. Our PERS reserve fund with what with the 100,000 we put in last year and what we think we're going to generate from payroll, we have a balance of about 412,000. And the nutrition services got a budget of 442.5 in there. And then some of our smaller ones, our title funds are decreasing a bit, but not too bad yet. And then of course you can see our bus textbook and equipment. So those are building because as we do transfers, we have a beginning fund balance. And so together that's about how much money we have there. And then on our debt service funds, our PERS bond at the end of, well, we have 2 more payments. So at the end of this 26-27 year, our final payment will be 205,823 left to pay on that. And then our current general obligation bond, our final payment is in 26-27 of $1,000,005. And then in our capital projects fund, we have about just under 2.5 million, which is nice to have that set aside for unexpected costs that may come up. And then you can see information on and more details on these on page 11 in your budget method. And then I just always like to give a quick review of our account code structure that everybody here now has been on that committee at least 1 or more years. So I just kind of put this in here as reference for you guys that for our account code structure for our revenue source, the first 7 numbers, the first 3 digits is the fund that it's coming from. So 100 fund is general fund, which is our, and then 200 is our special revenue, 300 is our debt service, and 400 is our. And then the function code is the next 4 digits. And there's local sources, intermediate, state sources, federal sources, and other sources. And then for our expenditures, we have fund. And the function is where we do our appropriations. So the 1,000s, 2,000s, 3,000s, and 4,000s is where we appropriate the money. And if we ever think we're going to go over one of those appropriations, I have to watch it, then we have to do a transfer. And then the object code, it tells you what type of expenses, like we were talking about, utilities, gas and diesel. And then within your budget book, there is a page that kind of gives a description of all of this, just so you have that correct. And that concludes the budget presentation for tonight. And our next meeting will be May 4th at 6. And so as you guys are looking over the budget, as you have questions, you can email me in the next few days. Probably by next Friday, I prefer to have all the questions. So that then we can come reconvene the next Monday and answer any questions you guys may have. Yes. Yes.
Okay. So how, is there any thought or in terms of planning, because I know this just all happened in terms of the governor's directive on executive order from the number of school days. I'm getting flooded. I think, again, I'm on the legislative committee for the Project School Board Association. So I went to the meeting on Friday and just got a little bit of a preview of what they were talking about. And they said it was the first time multiple associations had come together to talk to the governor. And then there's been article after article coming out about Oregon not having enough instructional days, and that shift should be to a finite number of school days versus a budget, consideration. And that is getting, it sounds like a lot of traction. So curiosity about, where we go in that planning process for the potential that there may have to be additional structure.
I'll let y'all know.
Okay. So obviously that's on all superintendent's radars right now. The implications of that executive order are really far reaching. So I think the governor reacted to some research that was done that showed Oregon has the least amount of instructional hours in the 50 states. And then she made her executive order. Right now, there's different organizations, including COSA, which is the superintendent's organization, that's going through a process of really explaining what, if she does that, what that means to school districts. Right now, we have been directed to look at, to hold districts harmless. So what the amount of hours we had last year needs to be the same as this year. So we have the same amount of days, our hours are similar. So for the Glide School District, that doesn't impact us, I think, for next year. When all of this shakes out, it could have an impact on us. I think another motive behind all of that is a push to get rid of 4-day school weeks. And there are many, many smaller school districts in the state of Oregon that utilize the 4-day school week to offset some of the costs. So there will be a huge budget implication if that's put into effect and schools actually extend their instructional time by number of days. So all of that, we're just kind of waiting to see how it plays out. And then, of course, I will come to you and as a district, we'll make those decisions. But definitely that is the buzz right now.
And the seriousness of it, I think, is, as long as I've been here, this would be the largest unfunded mandate that we've ever experienced. It won't even be close. So we have a lot of unfunded mandates that Salem throws at us, but this is adding, it's an incredible dollar figure. And Portland Public Schools triggered her response by cutting a week and a half of school off to save budget this year. And that's what triggered her to, so it's a big deal.
Just for reference, Glide is, for elementary and for secondary, Glide is right in the middle of the state. So we're not low, we're not high, we're right in the middle. I'm not saying that's good or bad, because as an educator, I always think we need more instructional time for our kids. You have to weigh that with staff and student burnout. So I always lean on that precious time that we have with kids. We need to make sure our instructional practices are really good and that we're getting the best bang for our buck for that time that we have. So that's where I focus my energy on. But if we get to a place where we have to add more time, then that's going to be a much bigger discussion.
Yeah, I think, to your point, what I have also been keeping a pulse on, because again, I'm getting all of the legislatures in this whole region, plus a couple more, all of their updates and the things that they're sending. And one of the driving factors of this is because, again, Oregon came out, and I think it was U of O that did the study on the 4-day school week. And then that was combined then with all of these businesses leaving Oregon saying that the scores and the report cards for schools are poor. So why would businesses stay, for their companies? So it's multifactorial.
It is a lot of things.
Like, what the issue, but my concern is to the budget, and so I really appreciate, Carolyn, that you built in some wiggle over there potentially, but you may be looking at a lot of different conversation. And so.
And a requirement for 5 day,
Yes.
which is,
I kind of think it should be 5 days.
right. You and I can have that conversation.
Right.
We should not be told by Salem what we will do.
Well, I don't know, Oregon, spends top 5 in money and you have the lowest education, statewide, so.
Right. But my only point is that's a decision Glide should make, not the governor saying,
No,
you can't have a 4-day school week because I said so. So,
well, yes, but it's, last time they tried to move back to 5, all the school board members got fired. Cause initially, when it went to 4, it was like a couple of years, and then the school board voted to go back to 5 because it didn't save very much money. Then they voted to go back to 5, and then
They recalled all the school board members.
big deal because it wasn't necessarily the school teachers and people, but it's hard to get people to go back to 5 days a week
probably is.
after they work 4.
And John, I would counter that argument a little bit about assessments across the nation. I would agree with that assessment if every state was held to the same standard and the same assessment. But the way that it's measured right now is each state is allowed to develop their own state assessment, and then they use that data to compare states. So an example could be that Oregon has a higher threshold for kids' success than maybe another state has. And so that state, it looks like their students are doing much better than Oregon, but the reality is they're not. Kids are learning more in Oregon because there's a higher standard or a higher threshold. So I've argued this for years that if we're going to start comparing state to state, that it needs to be apples to apples. So as soon as the federal government develops their own federal state that every student in the United States takes the same test, then I'll buy into those numbers.
And I don't disagree with that, but I'm more onto the money side, and that is
Yeah.
the state itself causing us to spend money, just like this bond measure. I mean, I hate to get into all this, but that we gotta spend so much money in Oregon to build a school, and I will guarantee you in Mississippi, it will cost half or less the same amount of money because of the regulation that the state put on us. So, yeah, and that's why, you know, here we are, Oregon, top 5 in how much we're spending per kid. And, you know, according to their deal, we're in the bottom 3 or something.
How long has Clyde been on a 4-day week?
I'm gonna say
Don Schrader was the superintendent.
I think it's been like.
yes, it was in the 90s.
I think it was 98 also.
Yeah.
So I graduated 96 and it happened after I left. Okay, we've already distributed the budget, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have to worry about that. So I guess we are on to number 6 and asking for any public testimony on the proposed budget at this time.
You're the public.
You're the-
Don't have anything to add?
I like it just the way it is.
Nothing to add?
Yeah. The public testimony, she likes it just the way it is. We will move on for that. And then I guess if there's anyone got any requests for any additional information they'd like to see on any budget items at this time, committee or board.
And remember, if you don't have anything now, if you let us know by Friday, we'll develop answers for you at our next meeting.
Yep, because we just got them, we can read through them and
Yep.
email questions to Carolyn. We'd like them by Monday. Okay, next, last thing is announcement. The next budget committee meeting is going to be May 4th at 6 o'clock right here, and be May 5th if needed, most likely not. And then the budget hearing adoption by the board is June 17th, 26 at 6 p.m.
It is Monday, isn't it? May.
Yeah, it's next Monday.
Yeah. Yep.
I'd like to remind everybody that the budget's also available on the website. If you're sitting having lunch and want to read it digitally, that's there too.
Or if you need help going to sleep at night.
Is there
You gotta
is there a motion to
You don't
adjourn?
have to set your copy. Yeah.
Move to adjourn.
Okay, all in favor of adjourning the meeting, say aye. Meeting adjourned.
That one.